Chat About Miniatures. Today, I'm talking to Kia of Windy Hill Whimsy on Instagram. She is renovating the dollhouse her great-great-grandfather made in 1913. It's been loved and played with for over 100 years and contains so much family history, but it needs rescuing to ensure it will be there for future generations. Luckily, Kia is the perfect woman for the job. Let's go talk to Kia. Hello, Kia. I'm so glad to have you on the podcast.
Hi, Becky. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you. You have a dollhouse that's 113 years old, made by your great-great-grandfather.
Yes, 111 years old, built in 1913.
Oh, okay. 111 years old.
Passed down for 3 to 4 generations now. So it was built in 1913 by my great-great-grandpa, and then it was passed to his granddaughter. That was the first gifting of the dollhouse. And then since then, it was passed to my aunts and to me and to cousins. And then now it went on to my nieces and nephews. So it's been through a lot of our family.
And it's a little worse for the wear right now.
Been through a lot of wonderful play and love. And so, yes, it's worn down with love, and it is time for a little refreshing so that it can last a lot longer.
Well, I think you're being a little kind there, because the first video I saw was of the floor and all this sticky, icky resin and you scraping away. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the second one I saw was like 7 layers of wallpaper, and I understand there's some mildew. I mean, it needs rescuing right now to keep it going, right?
Yes, it definitely does. So yeah, in addition to the play, there's also been a few rounds of, restoration renovations, and a lot of that has just been piling on more. So just wallpaper after wallpaper. So yes.
Your goal right now is to strip everything down, kill the mildew, start and build over fresh.
Exactly. Yeah, I want to give it a full fresh start and, down to the raw wood and the base to make sure that I'm rebuilding correctly, making sure that it'll be good for years to come.
It's going to take a lot of time to scrape all the glue and paint away. Is that correct? Yes,
it has already been taking a very long time, as you can probably tell from some of the videos. Yes, it's taking a considerable amount of time, but maybe I'm a perfectionist, but I also just like to do everything with, great attention to details.
Well, if you're going to do it right. How long have you been working on it?
Let's see, maybe 2 months now.
Okay. So the other thing that I think is interesting is I find it weirdly relaxing watching you scrape.
I find it relaxing too, and I'm glad it's relaxing for you to watch as well. But it's definitely a comfort for me. It's something I'm doing after work and things like that. That's just a calming, almost meditative, focus in on the cleaning and scrubbing and yeah.
And it's not just a dollhouse. Your great-great-grandfather also made furniture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's also been whole sets of furniture that have been passed down for just as long, and some other, pieces that have been added across the different decades by different people. Some of them are very old and also seen some wear, but actually surprisingly, some of them have been in such good condition. I remember many of these pieces from my own childhood, and I'm like, I definitely know I played with that as a kid, and it's still around, so that's impressive. It's gone through so many kids and still made it.
It is, and a lot of it was actually made by hand, just like the dollhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so the dollhouse is not a standard 1/112th scale. No. You estimate it somewhere in between Barbie and dollhouse. So what were we guesstimating? 1/8?
Yeah, 1/8, I think. So it's an abnormal size and scale, which definitely presents some challenges during renovation and matching, different scales of items. But it's a cool big house.
What was your great-great-grandfather's name?
Roland.
We could call it the Roland scale.
Yeah, there we go. I love it.
That's Roland scale. Hard to find, but good. So when you say it's big, I have a friend who does Barbie stuff, Tanya from Grandma Gets Real. And once I made a diorama with her when I visited her. And all I could say the whole time was, it's so big, the walls are so big, the sofa's so big. So your dollhouse must be pretty big with 6 rooms in 1/8 scale. How long, how tall is it? Does it take up a chunk of the room?
It definitely takes up a chunk of the room. It's taking up a full table right now. And it's about 40 width and then 39 inches tall. And yes, it's very big, so big that we couldn't even fit it in the car originally to get it here. So it's been quite a journey.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so the last kids that had it were my nieces and nephews, and they were down in California. And so I'm all the way up in Washington. So we had to get it from there to here. And so it went from my brother dropped it off at my sister's house, and then my sister had to drive it up to my hometown. And then I drove from there to Washington over Christmas to finish the transport of the dollhouse. And to do that, it required renting a truck for part of that leg. And then for my leg fitting into my car, we actually had to remove the roof to get it to fit into my car. So,
you know what I kind of love about that? It's a family dollhouse, and it took like the whole family to get it to you.
Exactly. I love that too. It felt like a rite of passage, kind of passing it between all of these people. And so that's all three of my dad's children that it had to go through to get it back up here for, renovations.
When your great-great-grandfather made it, he actually made two identical ones, one for each granddaughter.
Exactly. Yes, he did. He made two granddaughters at the time and made one for each of them. And then the other dollhouse, though, was passed down a different lineage of the family. So at some point it got lost. We have rumors that it was donated at some point, and so then it was lost from the family. And I don't know if it's future from that point on.
You know what? Maybe with your Instagram getting popularity, somebody will see it and say, wait a minute, I have that in my attic.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah. I'm definitely sad that we lost that one, but I certainly have plenty to do with just one dollhouse on my hands.
Oh, yes, I can see that. So one thing that we talked about before that I never really thought about, we were talking about mold and a little mildew and, things like that that are unwelcome guests in your dollhouse. But you also, since it's so old, you also tested it for lead paint. And I think that's a really good safety tip.
Yeah, I tested it for lead paint, which I definitely recommend to anyone renovating older dollhouses. And it might not even have to be that old of a dollhouse because lead paint wasn't banned until 1978 in the US. So that's pretty late. So it could be in a lot of old paints, and also it can be in different like finishes and varnishes as well.
Wow. So how did you test?
Yeah, I just have these very simple kits that I got off of Amazon or wherever. They're kind of like little Q-tips, and you dip them in vinegar, which like activates them. And then you just rub them on a surface for a bit, and then you'll see it change a color. So it's super easy. So again, I think it's just well worth the effort because it's a minor effort to test.
Absolutely. So you tested all the different paints and some of the glues and sealants, like you just kind of put it over all the different surfaces. Is that how you would do it?
Exactly. Yeah. I put it over a lot of different surfaces. I've tested all the different furniture. I've tested, the glue and backing of the wallpapers and the floorings and things like that, just to be sure, just to know where in the dollhouse to be more sensitive when doing renovation, stripping or sanding, things like that.
I wouldn't have thought after stripping to test the glue or the finish. I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're saying that's important.
The finish, I think in particular, I guess, for the furniture and things like that. So it can be uneven, or, I've seen it in real size houses too, like doors that are just full wood, but the actual finish that was added to it at some point could have lead in it.
And you did find lead in a couple different places.
Yes, particularly the window frames and the door frames, unfortunately, do have lead on it. So those have been my current mission to see how I can navigate around those.
And the basic thing is you wear masks when you're stripping it, and then you're going to put a paint to seal it on top of it.
That's correct, but it's also a special kind of paint. So not any paint can be a lead sealant. So this particular kind is less prone to chipping. And also the kind that I got actually has something added to it that if you were to lick it, so a small child licking a piece of furniture or the dollhouse, it has a bitter taste added to it, which I thought was really smart of them. So it will deter children from putting things in their mouths.
Oh, that's genius. Do you remember what it's called?
I think it's like lead barrier or something like that.
Oh, that's great. And I was sort of amazed you thought of all this, but it kind of leads into your regular day job, which is also super cool. Tell us what you do.
Yeah, so I'm a anthropologist by trade, and specifically I study whales. So I actually am looking at different types of human source pollutants that are out in the environment and how they are getting into the whales' bodies and affecting their health. So I'm studying that as my day job.
That's incredible. Now, are you studying all different kinds of whales or particular species?
I study a lot of different species, but I do have some focuses on gray whales, which exist along the west coast here of the US. And then I also have a lot of killer whale projects, which are important species here in Washington for us.
You have to get some whales in your dollhouse.
Yes.
Because you need to put some of yourself in this so that 3, 4, 5 generations from now, they say, this was done by my great-great-great-grandfather, and my great-great-great, not as many great-grandmother, refinished it, and she studied whales or something like that.
Yeah, I love that. I would like to put some little bit of myself into the dollhouse.
Well, you're putting a lot of love, blood, sweat, and tears right now.
Yes, that too.
So I always think it's interesting what room people start with. Did you start with the easiest? Did you start with the hardest? What did you start with?
I am currently starting with the kitchen. I've done a lot of stripping of all of the rooms, but now I'm really digging into this one room in particular. So it's the kitchen. I picked it because that room just looked the worst to me, and it was just bugging me that I wanted to make it nicer again. So that was the one with the most mildew in it and like significantly peeling wallpaper and flooring. And so it just looked like it was beckoning to be remodeled.
Yes. Anyone who's seen your Instagram can attest to that. So, it's going to take a while before you get to what we often call the fun part, the decorating part. But do you have some plans for it in your mind?
I do. Yeah. I think I'm still developing my full plan, I guess, for all of the rooms, but I do have some initial ideas, particularly for the 2 rooms that are downstairs. So starting with the kitchen, that one I'm kind of thinking of like country. But
a country kitchen?
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing like country kitchen style.
And in part, that's because of the sink and some of the handmade things you have, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I do have a fair number of kitchen furniture items. So that is influencing a bit of the style that I want to do in there. And then also one other item in the kitchen that has always stayed the same is that there's been checkered flooring. And so it's been different checkered flooring across all the different decades, but I want to keep that kind of style in there to carry through.
Wait a minute, different checkered flooring, like different colors? Like how many different ones?
Yeah, my childhood was like a black and white checkers. The one I just ripped out was like white and pink little checkered shapes. And then the 50s. The 50s was a different colored checkered one. I forget if it was a red coloring, something like that. I forget.
Wow, it really has a checkered history.
Yeah.
Sorry, people had to do that. And has it had a lot of different wallpaper?
Yes. I think in every single room, there's at least 4 to 6 layers of wallpaper. So,
that's one of the things that struck me as so unique about your house, because I have talked to people before that have renovated pretty old doll houses. But a lot of times it's kind of still in its original shape. But kind of what I love about yours is it's just been loved and used and redone so many times.
I love that too. Yeah. Each time I'm peeling back a different layer of wallpaper, I just am really enjoying thinking about just the different history that it's been and how it has changed across all these different, hands and styles and different ways that people wanted the dollhouse. So, of course, the core foundation of it all has stayed the same, but everyone's infused their own history into it, which I love.
And there's some pretty cool wallpaper. Some of it looks hand blocked or hand painted or
Yeah, a lot of the original couple layers of wallpaper in each room were all these intricate hand blocked or hand painted different motifs like roses and things of that sort.
Right. So that's another skill you happen to have is you do block printing, right?
I do block printing, though I will say I've never done one that tiny, but I would love to attempt. I won't make any promises, but I would love to attempt to try to do a block printing on some of the walls.
Oh, that would be so cool. So cool. So I know in the living room, you've got some plans and it has something to do with your Scottish heritage.
Yeah. So my family has a long Scottish heritage. On my great-great-grandpa's side, the one that built the dollhouse. So we are Scottish, and we actually have a tartan that is a certain type of material that has a design on it that is specific to our family. And so before my grandpa passed away, he had this tartan fabric woven in Scotland. And then he gave bundles of that fabric to each of his 4 children, and that's been passed down. I have my dad's portion of the tartan fabric. So I really want to use some of that to, sew curtains or reupholster some furniture, things like that as, a way to honor that part of my family.
That is so cool. Yeah. It makes me want to go out and make a family material right now. Yeah. Which of course would be teal.
Oh, I love it.
Is there such a thing as a teal tartan?
You can make it. I believe in you.
Yeah, I'll create one. We'll circle back to that. So it's got enough thin stripes in it that it won't look too out of scale. Is that right in the dollhouse?
Yeah, I think it's going to work well. There's thin enough lines in the patterning.
And what colors are in it?
The line colors are red and green, and then the background coloring is, I'm trying to remember, it's either a really dark navy blue or a black color, but a pretty dark with little stripes on it.
Well, I think we just found our colors for the house.
Yes.
Yeah, the tartan's going to be a pretty strong focal point.
Yeah, I definitely think it'll look really good in the living room, and especially with that green carpet. The other plan I have for the living room is for the walls. Right now, I got these tiny little wood pieces that I want to do some paneling with, and they're actually repurposed redwood that is from where I grew up in the redwood forest. And so I thought that would also be a nice way to kind of represent my childhood in that room as well.
That's so great. But I still think, could we make a tiny little kilt? Or what about a little bagpipe? I'm stuck on the Scottish theme.
I love it. Yes, I should sew a teeny tiny little kilt. I think that would be good.
It would be so cute. I know that a lot of the wallpapers, for some reason, maybe because your family loves roses, maybe because roses are just a big reoccurring motif in dollhouse paper. But out of all these layers, it seemed like it was rose wallpaper, stripes, rose, rose, rose.
There were a lot of rose. Yeah, I don't know if it was just an old-fashioned, more common style, but I do love the rose wallpapers that were in the bedrooms. And I think at least for one of the bedrooms, I want to keep that rose patterning. And also, just by chance, my middle name is actually Rose, so that also fits well.
Oh my goodness, the tie-ins are just killing me.
Yeah.
It's really cool how there's all these things that you can put in there that will remind people of you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I definitely want to do my part to represent all my different family members in different ways across time.
I think in the kitchen or in some cabinet somewhere, you need to put a little refinisher's kit, a little scraper.
Oh, yeah.
A little lead tester. I don't know, something like that.
Teeny tiny little Q-tip lead tester.
That's really cool. So this project's going to take, a year or two? It's hard to know, right?
Yeah, it could take quite a while, but I kind of like that process. I'm not here to rush through it. I'm here to, just really get into it. And I love the creative challenge of it all. So yeah, it'll probably take me a while.
Right. Well, so tell me a little more about your great-great-grandfather. How did he come by his woodworking skills? What do you know about him?
We're not really sure, but I have been looking through different archive records about him. And the most that I've really been able to find is that we think he was an engineer. And then there was rumors in the family that he was more specifically involved in rail car engineering.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Are you going to put a picture of him up in the dollhouse?
Yeah, I want to. I found these really, really old pictures of him, including him with little children. So I thought that would be a really perfect photo to frame in the miniature version in the house.
And he had one of those handlebar mustaches, is that right?
Yes, a very epic mustache in all of the photos of him.
That'll be great. And especially to show him with his grandkids. It'd be great to have lots of pictures of your family in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also have a great picture of my great-grandpa, so this man's son, and of him with bagpipes and wearing the kilt. That's our family's kilt pattern. So I also want to print a tiny little version of that one as well.
That's incredible. It's like a little history of your family, but instead of in a book, just all in this dollhouse.
Exactly. Yeah.
I know you also have pictures of the dollhouse over the years.
Yeah, I have pictures from my childhood in the 90s. And then we have some pictures now from 1951, which was when it was passed to my aunt. And then I also just found this week, I found some actual videos of the dollhouse from 1951. So it was originally on like old film reels, but super fun to see the old styles in the 1950s, pretty wild upholstery and bedding and such.
Oh, that's funny. But it's so cool to be able to look back on that.
Yeah.
And I know it's bright yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And you're keeping it that way, right? And there's a really special reason why you're keeping it that way.
There is. Yeah. So I definitely want to keep it yellow. As far as I know, it's always been yellow, at least in the photo documents. So when I went and got the dollhouse this Christmas, pick it up, I did remember that underneath the dollhouse, we always keep this packet that kind of explains the history of the dollhouse, and it has all the kids' names on it that have been passed to. But what I did not remember is that I had actually left a note in the packet when we passed on the dollhouse. So I must have been around 10 years old or something. So I had written a note to my grandpa at the time, thinking he was going to renovate the dollhouse. And so in this note, I've left him instructions of how I would like him to renovate the dollhouse and what I would like him to keep the same. And so I listed out 3 different things. I wanted the yellow paint of the house to stay the same. I loved this like brick chimney. It's kind of like a painted brick patterning. And then also I had these glow in the dark stars that were along the roof of the dollhouse. And so I requested to keep those as well. So I don't know if I'll keep the stars, but I do like the idea of keeping the yellow house and the brick chimney.
Oh, I definitely think you should keep the faux bricks and the yellow house. But let's dig into the glow stars here. Yeah. Are they like little stickers or what are they?
Little stickers, so not very classy. I will probably be removing them, but my idea right now is to instead paint little kind of star patternings along the roof to still kind of represent that wish from my younger self.
So do you remember writing this?
I don't remember writing it at all. I have no recollection of it. And the crazy part too is when I went and got this dollhouse, me and my sister are like carrying it into the house. And as we're carrying it, I literally was like, I really plan to keep the yellow house. And then I was like looking at the chimney. I was like, wow, that's really cool chimney. I thought it was painted so cool. And then I was like, I remember these stickers from our childhood. That was definitely me that put it on. And I literally listed all 3 of the things that my little self had written down. And I just had no memory of that whatsoever. Such a funny moment of like, gosh, you really are just kind of the same person across your whole life, just same chain of thoughts. And
you are. And I liked how you treated it in your Instagram like it was a letter to your future self.
Mm-hmm.
Because it kind of was.
It was, yeah. It's so strange because, yeah, it's written to my grandpa, but in the end, he actually didn't do any renovations from that time. And so really it was just a letter to my future self.
Wow. That's really incredible. Now, you don't have kids, so you're doing this to kind of preserve everything and get it ready for the next generation.
Yeah. I hope to have kids someday. So if I'm lucky in that, then I would, be renovating it for my kids and anyone else that comes along. And if not, then I would just want to restore it just for my family in general and make sure that it's, continued to be loved and used in next generations.
And also, it's really, really fun, right?
It's super fun. Yeah, I love this kind of stuff. And I've honestly always wanted to renovate this dollhouse, even since I was probably little. So it's been on my mind for a long time. And this was just the perfect timing of my niece was done playing with it. She's older now and I don't have kids yet, but also I wouldn't have time to renovate this if I did have kids probably, or at least it would be harder. So
I really applaud your foresight because by the time you think of that, you don't have time to do it.
Yeah. And I don't know if anyone else in my family has the time right now either. So I've got the interest in time and it's super fun to do. I always love to be busy doing any kind of crafting and learning new techniques and things like that.
You also have the skills. So where did you get all these skills? Block printing and scraping and I don't know what other skills you have, but it seems like you have quite a few crafty skills.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of picked it up along the way. I'm always busy doing some kind of crafting like that. I do the block printing. I also have done sewing probably since I was in like high school. I have a little pottery business. So I'm always just learning new things, and I just love to create in different forms.
I think that you are going to stick with miniatures because one of the things I find a lot of miniatures have in common is that they did a lot of different crafts before they found miniatures. And of course, what's unique about miniatures is that it actually is comprised of many, many different crafts and skills.
Yeah, I could definitely see that in the miniatures that I've been looking at online. That makes perfect sense.
So pottery, tell me about your pottery studio.
Yeah, so I just have a little mini pottery business, not miniature, but I have a pottery business, and I just build things in my house and then I bring it into a studio to fire it there. And right now I'm actually experimenting with my attempt at miniature pottery. So teeny tiny little bowls that I've been creating, but we'll see how they turn out. They're not finished yet.
Are you making them on the wheel?
I have made some on a little wheel, and then I also do a lot of hand building of things. So just shaping and forming.
Oh, okay. So how many have you made and how many have turned out?
I've made those 5, but they've only gone through the first firing. So they haven't been glazed yet. There's 2 firing processes. So they're about halfway through. So we'll see. I don't want to, false advertise that this is going to turn out.
No, that actually sounds really good. I bought a little mini pottery wheel and took a little one-day online class, and it was harder than I thought it was going to be, of course, which it always is. And this summer, I'm going to the school run by the International Guild of Miniature Artisans. They do a school in Maine once a year in June. And this year, I am taking a miniature pottery course, and it'll be pretty much all day.
That's wonderful. That sounds super fun.
Yeah, we'll have to trade. I'll have to get some miniature pottery chips from you before I go.
Yes, perfect.
So you could have like a whole little pottery collection all over the place.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. I think it would be super cute to stock the kitchen with tiny little pottery bits.
Everyone I know, once you get into miniatures, if you buy one piece of miniature pottery, you end up with at least a small size collection.
Yeah.
It is impossible to buy one handmade mini pot.
They just multiply.
They do. They multiply. You got to fill up those little bookshelves somehow.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what are you least looking forward to having to do in your dollhouse?
Oh, least.
Is there a challenge where you're like, I'm not sure what to do, or I don't want to do, or hopefully I'll think of something? Well, that's good. You feel pretty confident.
I'm just excited for it all, I think. I mean, yeah, it's probably just the overall endless hours of stripping and, removing goo, but that's all part of it too. So
I often ask people, will your dollhouse reflect your decor? And I know this is a little different because you're trying to keep with the spirit of the house, but do you have more traditional decor? Or are you more modern in your real life-sized house?
Yeah, I think I'm a mix. I've got some modern tendencies, but I really love color. So I'm not the beige modern vibe, and that actually drives me nuts. I love color. I love richness.
I love color. And all my rooms are a color. And they're not just all teal. I mean, many of them are. But I love orange, I love red, I love pink. So that's why I love this idea that, the tartan will be there and there'll be all these rich historical colors and roses. It's just going to be so vibrant.
Yes, that I definitely want that. And again, this is for children too. So I don't want, a bland house for them either. I want fun and bright.
Well, I'm really glad you brought that up because so many of these houses that a lot of us are making are not for children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, some people are making them but like the ones I'm making right now are for me.
Yeah, partially making it for myself just in my own enjoyment right now. But my goal is definitely I want to continue this history of children getting to actively enjoy and love this house.
Right. You're making it for a child. And so your plans for it are different.
Yes, they will be different. I know I'm looking at a lot of other dollhouses that have, teeny tiny little components. And I might have some of those, but those will be the things you put away in the box for a bit while kids play with them. And,
Right. Well, like I have like cocktails in mine and caviar. You're not going to do that. That wouldn't be appropriate.
Yeah.
I have a full wet bar.
That's true. Yes, mine won't have that.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, I do have some nieces, and there's two little girls I kind of have my eye on. Since birth, I've been sending them dollhouse type things, hoping that when they get to the right age, I can make them a dollhouse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's so fun.
I think it's just such a neat way for kids to express themselves, learn a lot of crafts and have something really unique of their own to do.
Absolutely. I agree.
So will you make it in mind so boys could play with it too? Is there any way you're going to adapt to make it more boy friendly or gender neutral?
I love that question. I'm not sure yet, but I will say definitely I think boys can play with dollhouses too. And there's a certain point in this list of kids that the dollhouse is passed down to that suddenly starts to list all of the brothers. It's usually was just the girls is passed down to, but then it's listing my cousins' names here as boys. And my dad had written a note, men are homemakers too, and really good ones. Roland would be proud.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something to think about.
Yeah, I love that. I think it doesn't need to be just for girls.
Maybe you can put a little fire pole in it somewhere. I think boys can play with a regular house too.
Yes, I used to play with My Little Ponies with my nephew all the time. So.
Oh, yes. So does it have, 6 rooms, 8 rooms?
It's got 6 rooms.
So tell me what they're all going to be. A bathroom, a kitchen.
Bathroom, kitchen, living room, and then there's 2 bedrooms, but I have already had ideas that I would kind of like one of the bedrooms to be a craft room because I love my craft room so much.
Oh, yeah, that's where you can put the scraper.
Uh-huh. And I thought it'd be so fun to make like little miniature art supplies or something, painting easel.
It is. I'm actually been working for a while on making little art supplies, some from kits, some from just whatever I have at hand. My mother, who passed a couple years ago, was an artist. And so I want to do like an art studio, and she left a lot of pictures, and I want to photograph them and put them on the walls. And mini art supplies are so cute, but also you need so many of them to do a studio. I feel like I'm going to be making mini paint tubes for years before I have enough.
That's true.
So will you do any landscaping or just a little few things on the porch?
Yeah, so there's this porch that I'm going to rebuild. It's like a movable porch. I remember as kids, we usually had it off to the side. It's in some disarray right now. It's in 3 different parts. So that one's seen some years. But I'd like to rebuild that. And then I think on that little porch, maybe I would put some little like potted plants or something like that.
Oh, that'll be cute. And did I read you're saving little samples of some of the wallpaper?
Yes, I have little bits of the wallpaper. I'm not sure what I'll do with them yet, but maybe they would be, a background to a picture in the frame or, something like that.
Oh, that's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, just something of kind of like, because I have been, somewhat sad removing this wallpaper. I'm happy to do it because I want to freshen it up, but it's like, I might be the last person that gets to in person see these old, hand printed roses and things that you can see the texture of where the paint is and things like that. So I definitely saved a rose or 2. And if those were framed, I think it would be really cute.
Oh, that's such a sweet idea. This is your first foray into the miniature community as well as to doing miniatures, right?
Yes.
And you started, this is incredible to me. How old is your Instagram?
I started, I think, in mid-January.
And you're at what, like 40,000?
I'm 49,000 now. Yeah.
So you got 10,000 followers your first week?
Yes. Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay, don't hate Kia. Because right now is such a tough time in Instagram. It's kind of amazing.
No, I know it. I mean, I have a pottery Instagram that did not do that well. I've been on both ends of just trying to create an Instagram. It was such a random thing. I was just like, I think I'll just be posting it as I make, this. I really didn't know if anyone was going to think it's interesting or not. Yeah, it's been super fun. I've been very pleased.
Oh, that's great. I think it really probably connected with people. It's such a unique project.
Yeah, I've loved Everyone's comments have been so cute. I think it's all these comments of people sharing about, their experiences with their childhood dollhouse, or nostalgia for old homes that they have that looked like the dollhouse, or their grandparents and things they'd made for them. And I think it's just such a sweet place on the internet right now of just holding space for nostalgia and for thinking about history and past and for creativity. And I just love that corner of the internet world. I feel like with my dollhouse, it's just been such a great opportunity. I already was really interested in my family history, but this is just another moment to dig in more and be sharing these videos and photos I'm finding with my family members that maybe, I don't talk to all the time. And it's just a sweet moment to reconnect with them and reconnect with my history.
Will you leave a letter to future you or future users of the dollhouse to continue the little tradition you inadvertently started?
Yeah, I think I will. I definitely want to update the packet under the dollhouse and add any more information that I'll be learning and just kind of fill in any details. And then, maybe I'll leave a little note for the future users of the dollhouse.
Well, Kia, it has been such a pleasure talking to you. It's such a cool project. And, I think everyone hopes that they'll open the attic someday or somebody will call them and say, do you want the family dollhouse back? But you're lucky enough to have it.
Yes, I feel super lucky. And thank you so much for talking with me today and inviting me into your miniature world.
Well, thanks again. I can't wait to see what you do with it. And when you get to some major milestones, I want you to come and update us.
Thank you. That would be wonderful.
Thanks again, Kia.
Okay. Thanks so much, Becky. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was so much fun talking to Kia. And while most of us aren't lucky enough to have a family dollhouse with that much history, there's nothing to stop any of us from creating one for future generations. Is that something you want to do? My next podcast will come out Tuesday, April 1st. Yes, that's April Fool's Day, but this is no joke. I'll be talking to my good friend, miniaturist and successful author Elise Hooper about her book, The Library of Lost Dollhouses. It comes out the same day. So be sure to listen to the podcast for the scoop on this amazing book. If you like the podcast, give it a shout out on Instagram or leave a review. It helps so much. And remember, there are no rules in your dollhouse except the rules you make for yourself. Goodbye.